going to talk about the art of self-compassion and Qigong for mindful living. So welcome to the session. You're either watching this live or you're most likely going to be watching the replay of this video. In this video, we're going to talk about Qigong and its relationship with self-compassion, how these things work together. We're going to kind of go through some of my personal work with Qigong and self-compassion, talk about some of the benefits that come with this practice of self-compassion. We're going to do a little bit of a self-compassion exercise and visualization, and then we're going to talk about some obstacles and some practical tips that we can use and develop Qigong and self-compassion as a nurturing, healing habit and way about living that's going to help us to improve our lives. So let's dive on into that. Self-compassion is the practice of being kind and loving and understanding and accepting of ourselves. So for example, as we're going out through life, we have a choice of being compassionate to ourselves, being kind to ourselves, or not so kind to ourselves. Oftentimes in our culture, we find ourselves being really hard on ourselves, pushing ourselves. For example, if we make a mistake or have an error, oftentimes we tend to beat ourselves up a little bit. We tend to be like, I should be more successful or more rich, more spiritual. I should be able to stretch better. And when we start to talk to ourselves this way, we're definitely not being self-compassionate. And we can begin to bring more self-compassion into our lives by developing our mindfulness muscles in a way. Hi, Michelle. This is live right now. I just did this out of the blue. There's no announcement or anything. The goal of this live is just to record it and then people can watch it afterward. So self-compassion is a fundamental aspect of Qigong. I'll be talking about it a lot more in the future, and I'll also be doing a more well-scripted version of this on the main channel as well. So you'll have access both to this live session and to the scripted version, which will be put on YouTube in the coming weeks or months. So, talking about self-compassion, and thanks so much, Michelle. That means a lot to me. So, self-compassion. We're thinking about the way in which we speak to ourselves, the way in which we carry ourselves, the emotions we allow ourselves to feel, the grace we give ourselves, and just the benefits that come along with that. Throughout my, my childhood, my teens and early 20s, I dealt with a lot of anxiety and a lot of stress. And one of the reasons that is that we oftentimes learn about how we treat ourselves and how we treat others from our society and from our parents and from our culture. And I definitely grew up in a loving environment, considering the skill set that my parents and teachers and the people raising me, my community had. But one of the challenges was that in our culture, we don't have the language and the awareness of what self-compassion is. It wasn't part of the vocabulary. It wasn't part of the awareness of the people around me. And so the people that were raising me were often hard on themselves, right? They didn't give themselves a break. They didn't know the self-care practices. They didn't know how to de-stress. They didn't know how to forgive themselves or others, or to have conscious communication with themselves, or self-reflect on their thinking patterns, and to cultivate more self-love and more self-compassion. And so as kids, as young adults, whatever, we end up kind of getting programmed with this sort of being hard on ourselves, not being kind to ourselves. a lot of us walk around with an inner voice that can be rather mean to ourselves, and we probably wouldn't let other people speak to us the way that we sometimes or often speak to ourselves consciously or unconsciously. And so even just having that basic idea that self-compassion is a skill, it's something that we can begin to study and practice and embody in our lives, is an incredible gift that we can give to ourselves, and can be that first initial gift of self-compassion we can give to ourselves. If it's a new concept to us, if it's something that you're aware of and you want to kind of deepen your self-compassion, you're probably going to learn some or revisit some important ideas in this video. So make sure you stick around till the end if you want to hear that stuff. So for me, I didn't really even know self-love was really a concept until probably my early 20s. And even once you learn it, it's a thing. It takes a while to practice. And since I've been embodying self-love in my life, I definitely feel more relaxed in general. I definitely do more proactive things in my life, like I'm always improving my habits, or I will make more life-affirming decisions because I love myself more often. A really powerful affirmation I heard recently that I think sums up the core of the self-compassion I'm developing with myself is from the book The Self-Talk Solution by Shad Helmstetter. And the affirmation is, I am my best friend and my greatest leader, or something along that line. I am my best friend and my coach, or my leader, or my own mentor. And I think that right there sums up self-compassion in a big way. To be kind with ourselves, but also to hold ourselves accountable and to see ourselves as a work in progress, and to accept ourselves as we are, but also to know and to notice areas where we would like to improve our lives, and to also like ourselves when we've accomplished those goals. I was just doing a little bit of research on this, and I won't share any links in this video. I encourage you to do your own research, but I was just looking through some scientific evidence before I made this claim that there is a scientific body of evidence that shows that those who do self-compassion practices have greater health. It can help with the immune system. It can help with overall mental health and improving symptoms of anxiety, stress, depression. Self-compassion is an important skill and practice to have as a foundation of your operating system. As well as we need to think about the mind-body connection. So how we think, the emotions we allow ourselves to feel, has a physiological response. So when we are kinder to ourselves, when we're loving to ourselves, we're gonna see that physical benefit as well. Which is why that when you're doing your Qigong practice, that can be a good time to set that intention. I'm going to do some slow, graceful movements. I'm going to breathe. I'm going to stretch, and I'm going to be kind to myself throughout that process. Right? I'm going to be kind and gentle with my flexibility, with my stretch, with any thoughts or emotions that come up during a Qigong practice. We're kind of allowing ourselves to use both the intention of self-compassion and the physiological benefits of stretching, self-massage, flows, to cultivate deeper inner peace, tranquility, wellness, and self-love. So we're kind of coming at this from two angles of Qigong. We want to set a powerful intention of self-love and self-compassion, and we also want to move and breathe and embody that throughout the practice. So that's why I love to teach Qigong. Really think about that. Think about self-compassion and beauty, okay? And then think about nature. When you look into nature, you can see the wind blowing, beautiful sunlight coming through the trees, the sound of birds and insects. And when you're doing Qigong out in nature, that's where you're really trying to embody the tranquil, beautiful qualities of nature. And that's another connection to self-compassion as well is allowing ourselves to sort of let go of stress, let go of these challenging negative emotions that maybe we have sometimes, and to let ourselves sort of be like the soft flowing of the leaves and the river and all this stuff as well. So that's a connection there. And Qigong is a form of self-care. So it's a great tool to have in your toolkit of self-compassion. Okay. That's great. That's great. So thanks so much for those who are tuning in through the live. And again, this will be up to rewatch. And again, I'll be reshooting this with a stronger script in the future. But we're just kind of getting out a little bit of a basic chat today because I think that it'll benefit some people. So we're going to go through a little bit of a guided visualization here for self-compassion. So let's just start off here with taking a deep breath. So inhale through the nose, and exhale through the mouth and sigh. I'll do it again. Inhale through the nose, and exhale. Just relax. Feel your body on the chair beneath you, feet on the floor. Relax any stress and tension. And I want you to visualize, with your eyes closed, something in your life that brings a feeling of love or compassion. It can be a pet, a child, it can be a person that you know that you love, or a memory that brings a lot of compassion. And I just want you just to allow yourself to fill yourself with that feeling of compassion. So if it's a pet, like a dog or a puppy or a kitten, whatever it is for you, allow yourself to just visualize that and feel the compassion and allow that to sort of fill into your body and your mind. We're going to take that feeling of compassion into the rest of this visualization. So just touching upon it. Okay. Now what we're going to do is we're going to visualize a bright red orb or light in the center of your chest. And we're going to fill that with that self-compassion. So just at your heart center, visualize a bright red light or orb and fill that with that self-compassion. Remember to breathe. You can smile into your face, smile into the body. And just begin to fill your whole body with that sense of compassion. You can let go of the puppy or the baby or whatever it is that you feel compassion for. And we're going to redirect that toward ourselves and just fill the body with that feeling. So just take a moment. Allow yourself to fill yourself with that compassion. You can visualize a bright light, yellow light filling the body. Smiling into the body. And just for a moment now, as we're touching upon that self-compassion, let's just allow ourselves to note any stressful or difficult situations in our life, any challenges we're facing, and any areas in our life where we're not being maybe kind or loving to ourselves. Whether it's financial stresses, emotional difficulties, relationship challenges, career difficulties, any area of your life where you're currently feeling hard on yourself, just acknowledging that for a moment in that space of self-compassion. Just returning to that visualization, connecting again to that feeling of self-compassion that we're cultivating. And let's ask ourselves, can I be more kind to myself in these areas? Can I allow myself to feel these challenging areas in my life where maybe I'm not so happy with myself or being hard on myself or disapproving of myself? And can I just be a little more compassionate to myself in these areas? Can I forgive myself for being imperfect in some areas? And can I see that as being natural, part of being human? That we all make mistakes, we all have limitations or things that we may not like about ourselves, whether it's our looks, our flexibility, our spiritual progress. And just take some deep breaths here. And sigh. And as we're doing this visualization, let's give ourselves permission to feel what's there. Negative emotions, positive emotions. And earlier in the talk I mentioned that good affirmation is, I am my own best friend and counselor, I'm my own best friend and leader, I am my own best friend and teacher or guide. So in this moment where I'm being compassionate toward myself, as well as to the positive aspects of my life, the things I love about myself, I'm addressing those as well. So we'll get to that in a moment. But first, let's say some affirmations to ourselves that perhaps through the challenges of daily life that we forget to say to ourselves. So take a deep breath and sigh. We can say to ourselves, I forgive you. I understand. It's okay. We can say to ourselves, I can be more gentle with myself in this area. I can be more patient with myself in this area. I can let go of being hard on myself. We can say things like, I trust myself to take responsibility, and therefore I can be a little more gentle with myself. We can say to ourselves, I love you. Sometimes some of us struggle with that one. Many of us probably do actually. And we can say lastly, like, I'm always going to take care of you, to ourselves. I'm always going to protect you. And I'll always be here for you. Some of these are the foundations, some good affirmations, some good thought habits to have for self-compassion. And then let's cross the hands. Just place them over the heart center. Just give yourself a little rub. Inhale. And breathing. Just take some breaths here with a hand on the heart. Coming back to that earlier visualization of that bright red light in the heart center. Reconnecting to that compassionate memory of a puppy or a baby or a friend. Any situation that brings that self-compassion, filling your heart with that and giving it to yourself. Remembering that self-compassion is not something you earn. It's something that is fundamental to being human. It's something you deserve. All right. So that was a short meditation, a short visualization of compassion. Again, I'll be doing a more refined video in the coming weeks. Self-compassion meditation. That's just like basically one of the routines on the channel. So you'll be able to do that in the future. Okay. So let's touch upon real quick just some common obstacles that we may face when cultivating or practicing self-compassion. Some of the basic ones for me, I know, is giving myself permission to do it. Oftentimes, we want to self-correct. We want to improve situations in our lives. And a lot of us learn from our culture that being hard on ourselves, pushing ourselves, punishing ourselves is the way to do it. But actually, when we come from a place of self-compassion, understanding, objective observation, and just dealing with situations rationally, from this place of self-compassion, we can definitely deal with obstacles more skillfully than when we're beating ourselves up or being hard on ourselves. Another obstacle of self-compassion is thinking we don't deserve it, thinking it won't work, thinking it's nonsense, these sorts of things. So one of the ways we can begin to overcome that is by buying books on self-compassion, contemplating artificial intelligence like Claude AI, ChatGPT about self-compassion, maybe listening to audiobooks. Start to feed your mind with information that is grounded and rooted in self-compassion. Also, you can Google and research Qigong related to self-compassion, heart-opening flows, these sorts of things, Tao Yin, and various yoga, other breathing exercises. And again, I'll be creating a more thorough and detailed self-compassion meditation in the future. So some of the obstacles to self-compassion are habitual self-criticism. We get in the habit of criticizing ourselves all the time. We get in the habit of seeing ourselves in a negative light. We're too old, we're too skinny, we're too fat, our hair's too long, or we're too bald. It's so easy to get stuck in negative self-criticism that we think that's just how reality is. That's just how the mind works. That's just how I am. But actually, when we learn about self-compassion, we realize that that's not the case. Our minds are relatively flexible. Our emotions are flexible. And we can actually develop self-compassion and change the way we see ourselves. We can change the way we treat ourselves. We can change the way we feel about ourselves by becoming intentional and serious about developing self-compassion. And really, next to, taking care of your finances, your career, your health, physical health, your relationships, like self-compassion really, it's at the center of all that at the end of the day. But it's going to provide so much value in your life that you might not even be aware of right now, that it's one of the most important investments you can make. Because self-compassion is not just how you talk to yourself, how you see yourself, how you feel about yourself. It's also being strong enough, and self-compassion also has a resilience aspect of it too, that when you're self-compassionate about yourself, you're going to be willing to develop the resilience and the strength to overcome the challenges that you're dealing with and to take proactive, objective, rational steps towards solving the problems in your life. But when we're being hard on ourselves, beating ourselves up all the time, it can be really challenging to actually make meaningful changes in our lives because we're pulling ourselves down by being hard on ourselves. When we're moving toward greater self-love, greater self-compassion, and taking proactive, meaningful steps, intentional steps in our life, that's when we can begin to make more improvements. So self-compassion is actually incredibly practical and useful, and it's actually a holistic practice that's going to encompass everything you're doing in your life when you apply it in that way. Again, this is a cultural thing, I think. I think that we have a lot of toxicity online. We're judging others all the time, right? How we treat others sometimes often reflects how we treat ourselves. We're being judgmental of other people all the time, judging our coworkers, judging our boss, judging other people, judging people in the news, on social media. We start to think this is how naturally we should be, but actually that's not the case. I think that we operate much better, we solve issues much better when we're coming from a place of self-compassion, understanding, and our higher values and our higher self. So that's a good place to begin to orient ourselves. And to the degree that we see self-hatred as like a normal thing in society, we want to question that. We don't want to buy into it. We don't want that to be the standard at which we set ourselves and how we treat ourselves and our families and our communities. So self-compassion actually transcends all culture, and it's a universal idea that connects all of us at the end of the day. Because every single human at the end of the day, whether or not they're going about it in a skillful way, is trying to live a good life. Okay. So some practical steps we can do to incorporate self-compassion in our lives. Like I said before, make a habit of coming back to it, right? Small things like gratitude journals, buying books on self-compassion, contemplating with artificial intelligence like ChatGPT or Claude AI about self-compassion, listen to more audiobooks, podcasts, whatever it is. Make it a regular basis to listen to information about people, there's plenty of them out there, teaching self-compassion, talking about self-compassion. Next thing you can do is begin to ask yourself the question more often, in this area of my life, in my life in general, how can I be more compassionate to myself? Am I criticizing myself all the time? Am I being mean to myself all the time? Am I limiting myself in my life with limiting beliefs? Right? These are important questions to start to ask and start to visualize yourself, even if you can't do it, even if it feels fake or not natural, begin to visualize to yourself how you would treat yourself if you could, because you can, okay? The practice of Qigong, yoga, breathwork, exercise, going out walks in nature, these sorts of things. These are simple ways of doing self-care. You know, if you're really tired and exhausted, take a nap. You know, give yourself permission to relax, to sleep. If there's things you're thinking about constantly running through your head, you have permission to let that go for a while. Put things down. Give yourself a break. Be kind to yourself. You know? And sometimes there's a sticking point where we'll say, but this thing about myself, I hate it so much. This area is so stressful. A good reminder is this too. Even this I can love myself about. I can work through this with myself. I can take care of myself with regards to this, no matter what it is. Even this. And it might feel like, how? I don't know how. But you trust as time goes by, as you work through it, on a daily basis, taking small steps toward cultivating that self-compassion, that you can find this sort of eternal love that's always been there your entire life. It's been keeping you alive because no matter how stressful you've been or what mistakes you've made, you've been alive and living through all of it. And at the core, there's something in you that wants to live, wants to work through these things, and that core is your self-love. It's biological. It's in you. It transcends biology as well, but we want to begin to connect to that more often. So, in conclusion, we're going to wrap this up, and then if you have any questions you want to ask the questions down below. Again, this session will be shared on YouTube forever, as far as I know, so you can come back and watch it. And I'll be doing a self-compassion meditation, and also in the coming months, you'll be seeing more talking videos on this channel that are scripted and well practiced. And so part of my practice toward doing that is doing some live sessions, just touching base on some of these subjects to help me with my process. So if you have any questions, comments, make them in the chat. I'll answer them in a couple of minutes here. But when it comes to Qigong and this whole thing, Qigong isn't, it's a routine. Qigong is movements and postures and working with our life force energy. But part of your life force energy is your thoughts and your cognitive behavior. Your thoughts and your emotions are connected, right? And your rationality and the way you rationalize and think critically is also affected by your emotions. So all these things are interconnected. And so when we cultivate this self-compassion at the core of our operating system, it's going to have effects in you that you might not see at the forefront of this journey toward developing self-compassion. We want to nurture ourselves. We want to tend to the gardens of our minds, of our heart, and our spirit on a daily basis. We are growing and tending this inner garden of our lives. Because you're alive right now, you're here, this is it. So why not love yourself? Cultivate this relationship with yourself, with your thoughts and your feelings and your emotions and your habits. And each day, through ups and downs, sometimes you're going to forget, sometimes you're going to let go, sometimes you're going to think self-compassion. It doesn't work. I hate myself, I'm so frustrated. But as your emotions shift and you come back to your Qigong practice and you de-stress, you get that energy flowing through as your stress hormones relax and you come back to that balance and tranquility, and you ground yourself through doing Qigong on a regular basis. Self-compassion makes sense. Okay. I can breathe, I can stretch, I can let go of tension, self-hatred. Oh, there's some shadow material coming up. Oh, that's difficult. Okay, can I be compassionate here? Can I let that go? Can I see my good qualities? So, as humans, our energy is going to be shifting. Sometimes we have traumas and old patterns that will come up. But no matter how we kind of ebb and flow, and we have setbacks and whatever, self-compassion is always there. It's like it never goes anywhere. So even when you lose it, it's still there. You can always reclaim it at any point. And that's what's so special about the this too affirmation and just practicing self-compassion. Because if you were compassionate to yourself, even if you forgot about it and for a few months you're being hard on yourself again, well, if you were self-compassionate, you would just get back on the train, and just try again. So this is a short a short explanation, a short discussion on self-compassion. In this live session we talked about self-compassion, what it is, that there's a mind-body connection. So as you begin to practice, you're going to have physical benefits, mental benefits. You can be more proactive in your habits and your way of living. And that Qigong is a powerful central practice toward developing self-compassion and maintaining it. And it's also an act of self-compassion. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you're doing well. Stay tuned for this next Qigong routine that's coming out this week, which will be Qigong for core and stability. It's more of a physical practice. It's more strength building. Of course, there's some flows at the end. I think you'll really enjoy it if that's something that you're looking for. I hope you're doing well. Stay healthy. and keep it effortless, and I'll talk to you soon. Peace.